Hello, hello, it's me, it's Dwarven Moustache. Right, so I know this doesn't look very interesting at the moment, but this is sort of a follow on from a few things, because I've been looking at sort of trying to do, particularly I had taken an interest in the around about the time of Poitiers, but a little bit earlier. There's some fascinating history with the first siege of Caen in Normandy, generally the Cressy campaign. There's a few very interesting people around that. Yeah. John Chandos, and there was an Audley, and it's just loads of different sorts of real characters around the 100 Years' War, the early phases of the 100 Years' War. So I've been trying to build up an army suitable for around about that sort of period. And, well, as you can probably see, this is going to be an unboxing. This is from Claymore Castings, and I've got a second order on the way, but made this this order a couple of weeks ago, perhaps roughly about that then, and I'm getting round to doing a video. Box is already open, so you can't see me addressing. I'm not doxing myself, but it's also perhaps of a fair note to say that I managed to get a new tripod, so things should be a touch more stable and stuff like that, and some of the camera work might be generally a bit better, a bit more still. The tripod I've got seems to be holding out okay. I've given it a test run, and setting up was currently surprisingly easy. But you're not here for a review on tripods. There are modest priced selfie sticks that you can find, and hopefully this is a lot better than the stuff before. This is to do with Claymore Casting mounted knights. I have a previous video where I'm sort of doing I think more of a what's on the table update, and I had a lot of knights, mounted knights from First Corps. These companies both go sort of they came recommended for the period, meant to be very historically accurate and stuff, and decent quality. I've heard of other companies. This is for early 100 Years' War. So here we go. This originally came in 3 layers. I had a bit of a look through this a bit earlier, but this is just sort of a bit generalised sort of look, because as you can sort of see, I got loads. I generally wanted to try and get a very diverse thing, so I could have like a core hub of Poitiers stuff, and then then I could have some options for like doing Cressy or the Breton War of Succession and stuff. But I do have more on the way, and I'll probably do another sort of thing of them. One of these, I don't necessarily want to say it's a review video, because it's not necessarily a review. This is more of an unboxing, I suppose. And I intend to just show you some of the stuff. Hopefully you can see those all right. Horses are quite dynamic. I mean, these horses are generally in more dynamic poses than my First Corps ones, but they come with the really canny comparisons and stuff. And yeah, there was a good selection. I'll basically just empty the box. And I got several of the same type. So I think about some of these are sort of duplicates of others, but they have a very good selection. Yeah, the armour's going to be a good mix of, say, more the older style bucket helm, and also the hound skull, pig face, bassinets and stuff. what Perry's are, Perry's are good models or whatever, but they're meant to be very much sort of they're for the Agincourt period, and yeah. I mean, one thing, yeah, you can sort of tell with this guy here, he's got more of the, brim. I was going to call it a morion, but no, that's a later style. It's not a bucket helm. It's not even necessary. It's more a bassinet with brim and crest. Yeah, I got a good. Yeah, so if you are going on the Claymore Casting site again, very soon after this again, they're not got much range. It's because I bought them all and they're probably still in the casting stages. So thanks very much, Claymore Casting, for doing that. Please bear with, because I presume they would be eventually getting a load more cast up and stuff, because they normally have a good selection of stuff. You can see it's got some with lancers. These lancers are a bit different to the first core stuff. They're more sort of shortened lance. Hold on. Now this one of these, I think, because I managed to get. I'm not necessarily sure which one this is, because two sets out in this pack are characters. And I know one of the characters was John Hawksmoor. So this might be one of the Hawksmoors. So you get the mounted and dismounted version. And I'm trying to remember the other character they did. Character. I'm talking as if it's a fantasy thing. But no. And this... that is, he's just labelled French Commander, because I wanted something that was more sort of like a generic fancy knight leader. And it's, they've got some without the comparisons compared to the ones with. I wanted mostly comparisons because it's the early 100 Years' War, and they had newer armour, but still use the comparisons when you talk about sort of when comparing them to the Barons' War of about, how long was it? Cressy was about 1345. Last battle in the Barons' War was 1260s. Early, probably 1265 at the very late. I can't remember. I'd have to look it up. I think even with some of that, it's very debatable when the last battle was. But yeah, they're quite dynamic. You can probably see for yourselves and stuff that. There we are. Trotting horse in full gallop, full charge, and it's the Not Gamberson guy. He's a duplicate, but you get a good mix of hand weapons. He's got an axe, and yeah, there's another character. I'm trying to remember the two characters. I should have had a look, but if you click on the early 14th century English, you're given quite early on in that on the first page. You can see Hawksmoor and the other character, but yeah, I mean, I think this guy's got that's an early bassinet, I think, because they gradually became more pointed, and then it then the point seemed to extend out of the crown of the head, so sort of almost backwards. So the further back the point is, the later it is. But then again, I think they sort of had kettle helms and stuff, more like skull caps and stuff. Yeah, and it's I think that's the charge trot pack again. Now, apparently, with these guys, these are the same sculptor worked on these and another batch, and Antediluvian Miniatures picked those up and became their. It's the War of the Bruces, so that's the. That's earlier on in the 1300s. I think the Second War of Scottish Independence was about that was through the mid 1330s, and of course that's the whole Edward III, and you had and all of that's associated with some Australian guy who decided to be anachronistic by painting himself blue and wearing a big kilt, and putting way too many R's into freedom. But yeah, I think that's the same pack again that I keep pointing out. I did get to several of these because I can't remember. But yeah, I should have enough to be able to do. I know there wasn't necessarily much cavalry at Poitiers on the English side anyway, but I do realise that it was thought that much later on in the battle, when the third wave of French was coming, that there was John Chandos and the Capital de Bouche. They wanted to go around extended out from their right flank, and then taking the French in a cavalry charge in perhaps behind or whatever. So there was a cavalry contingent there, but that was much later on in the battle because most of it was sort of infantry hidden behind a big hedge. That was more along the lines of, say, you see the Normandy boccages during World War II and how much trouble the people had during the invasion then. Yeah. This is the other little character pack. And can't really tell from the backs of them. But yeah, I had got it right. It's the first mounted and infantry pack. That was awkward, and I can't remember the name of this one, who this was meant to be, but I think they generally sort of wanted it so that you could get use the models as either the intended character or as more of a generic knight or something. But yeah. And as you can sort of see rolling around in the pack there, there's the shields, and that's a riding arm, that's also rolling around about here. Nearly done, as you can sort of see. Mostly it's mainly the horses, isn't it, that you can sort of see. But I'm planning on doing several of these sorts of videos. I've made a couple of orders but yeah, I've now got the cavalry all sorted, and now after these, I have a load of infantry on the way in about I think 3 separate batches. There's a Claymore, there's a gripping beast. I took I took advantage of one of their little they do like a bulk discount offer with some of their 100-year war stuff. But yeah, it's like you can just about see a lot of the knights. This guy's got a sort of, his tunic's more sort of like a gambas and over chainmail. He's got the sort of the hound's face, pig face, bassinet. That's more of a bassinet because you can sort of see that the point over the crown is quite moderately far back. So that's sort of probably contemporary for that sort of time. But yeah, and it's one of these again, with the galloping horse and the trotting horse. I'm going to cough, pardon me. But yeah, I'll probably do an unboxing of all the infantry packs beyond the Griffin Beast, the other Claymore. I've also got another First Corps, and one of the things I'm sort of hoping is that with First Corps, yeah, I'd been having, because I'd wanted loads, enough to do a fair-sized sort of a fair-sized army, was that with First Corps, they do slipped off. They do unit packs, and one of the things that I'd sort of had difficulty sort of finding were specific Gascon and Gascon javeliniers and crossbowmen. But it looks like the crossbowmen were more your they look like they were from what I could find, they generally seem to be armoured like most of the French crossbowmen of the time, but without the pavis. So it's basically just trying to find a load of, but apparently they were mainly, they would have been mounted. Apparently they're more of an elite force from the Pyrenees Mountains. But yeah, it's sort of and it's I think Poitiers they're meant to have been, because it's. But at Poitiers they were skirmishing. They were crossbow skirmishers, so it's a bit sort of conflicting. But apparently they might. It looks like they were generally sort of armoured like most other crossbowmen at the times, but without pavises, so they could be quite, they could move around a fair amount and skirmish. But so I've got those on order, and also it was the Javelineers, the Gascon, because they were meant to be light infantry, and much of the light infantry that I could find were Welsh Javelineers, and they normally had were very Celtic. They normally had the tartan shawl, because at the time even the Welsh had sort of their own clan tartans and things. So they weren't necessarily suitable. But what I've sort of hoped is that I've managed to find some unarmoured, unhelmeted spearmen that I hope will be suitable for Gascon Javelineers. They have general short spears and stuff like that. And what I did do is that it sounds like the Black Prince left England for Gascony with a contingent was it 170 Welsh spearmen. So I got the Gascon skirmishers from First Corps, and I also got some gambesoned helmeted spearmen from First Corps as well. But I think the Welsh were meant to be, at the time, I think they were meant to be slightly not as well equipped as the English, and I think generally, even with the English, that they were using a couple of things sort of that were a couple of pieces of armour. So yeah, some of the poorer men at arms with the English was sort of probably still having stuff that was well out, pieces of armour that were well out of style. So I sort of thought, well, yeah, the late Barons' War sort of period is probably suitable for those spearmen and stuff, yeah, with the Gascons skirmishing javeliniers, they were basically meant to be sort of mountain men and stuff, and they were sort of basically they were hill bandits as far as I can find out, who when the Black Prince arrived in Gascony, they teamed up with him because there's the the Capital Bouche. But yeah, I've got enough here for on order rather for a fairly decent sized force, and it's just a sort of a case of it should cover a lot of contingents from sort of having hopefully if I'm playing other battles or other similar periods, early 100-Year War periods, then if I'm not necessarily doing Poitiers, then the crossbowmen can still be perhaps Flemish crossbow mercenaries, because there were mercenary bands wandering around, and ditto with the Javelineers. It's that they can hopefully double up as some of the Breton equivalents, and yeah, it's the Welsh spearmen. I think there were Welsh spearmen throughout the whole of the 100-Year War, definitely the early stages anyway, and it's like, so I can still use the Welsh spearmen as Welsh spearmen. The crossbowmen can probably double up as Flemish, probably mercenaries if need be, and the Javelineers can be perhaps Breton or Gascon, hopefully. Anyway, yeah, I've got to build these up, I've got to paint them up, and there's, 2 or 3 different sort of almost different forces are based on the same period with these. Hopefully everything's been all right. I hope the traffic noise has been all right. If you've got this far and you've liked the video, please do the thumbs up and stuff. Basically, if you don't mind if you like what you see, and if you like, do all the pressing of buttons. If you would like to subscribe, that would be nice. If you would like to like, that would be nice. If you'd like to comment, that would also be nice. I'll keep up with content and stuff, and that just leaves me to say, stay safe, stay groovy.